There's a lot to unpack here. It is a big, huge case. And joining us right now, we have MSNBC investigative correspondent Mark Santia. We have MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin, and also sports wrap host Jason Page. I mean, guys, this is like something out of, some illegal gambling film or a Sopranos episode. I mean, take your pick because it hits all of them. So give me a sense, Mark, of just what jumps out to you about this. Is it the enormity? Is it the money?
It's all of it, Alex. Alex, it's all of it. It's huge names in the NBA. It's the extent, some of the technology, Alex, they're talking about was
crazy.
Incredible, and millions of dollars. I mean, when you talk about the NBA, you're talking about Terry Rozier. Had a great career, currently playing with the Miami Heat, had some great years with Boston. You're also talking about Chauncey Billups, who's the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers. But Billups played for the Knicks. Billups won championships in Detroit. He was a finals MVP in 2004.
Yeah.
So you're talking about some of the biggest names in the game. And then you're talking about, in the one case, you're talking about these are two separate investigations. There's some overlap. But you talk about that poker investigation, illegal poker. So they would find quote-unquote victims called fish, and they would lure these fish in, according to the feds. They would lure them in with the opportunity to play next to some big names, including Chauncey Billups. And then, Alex, you're talking about the technology. They had shufflers, like card shufflers. You are talking about special glasses, and then something I've never heard about, an X-ray table.
So if they could place the card up face down and still be able to zero in on that card and know exactly what it was.
You're looking at it right here, right? That's it. Your card is face down, but everybody's in on it except for the fish, the victim, and they can see what card the fish has. And again, it's all about sort of, according to the feds, bilking these unsuspecting poker players in these games to the tune of millions of dollars. And then when people wouldn't pay up, you would see organized crime, according to police, organized crime come in and muscle some of those victims to paying up. This is a massive two massive investigations out.
Arrests from all over the country. We had them in Miami today. We had them in Portland. We had them in Las Vegas. I mean, it really spans the breadth of all 50 states, most likely. So, Lisa, let me ask you about your takeaway on this, the big highlights for you, and what you think went into this kind of a sting operation. I mean, how elaborate was it behind the scenes trying to bring these people to justice, or at least place the arrests?
Well, let me say a couple of my highlights. One is the statement that the NBA has been fully cooperative in the investigation, and I suspect that the league and its commissioner, Adam Silver, will have something to say about that and the extent of its cooperation in this. The other thing that struck me, though, Alex, was from Commissioner Jess Tisch of the NYPD, who really was more descriptive, I think, in her comments about what they discovered in the particular evidence than anybody else was, but went out of her way to talk about what kinds of resources multiple law enforcement agencies can marshal when they work together collaboratively. And so this was a joint investigation of the NYPD, the FBI. There is a task force involving organized crime that got involved here. And of course, this all comes back to the Eastern District of New York, which is the charging office here. But I think we'll hear more in the days to come about the level of cooperation between law enforcement agencies and even the involvement of FBI field offices and U.S. attorneys' offices from around the country, because as they noted, there were games that were played all over the country. There are arrests being made this morning and people who will be arraigned or make their initial appearances in courts as far-ranging as Portland and Las Vegas, and I believe also in Florida. But the final thing that really struck me is the detail about Terry Rozier with respect to the sports throwing conspiracy, right? And the allegation, and Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, is that they bet collectively more than $200,000 at a point in time where they had inside information about Terry Rozier's injury, and therefore they knew,
lack thereof.
Right, and they took the under on him to the tune of thousands of dollars of profits, which the group then gathered together to count. So the combination, and Jessica Tisch mentioned this, the combination of sort of old school mob tactics straight out of a Sopranos episode, and there is a Sopranos episode that sort of is like this, where you have ordinary people who want to be in on a big wheel card game, and they have Frank Sinatra Jr., for example, sitting at the table to make it look both impressive and legit. That's the role that the feds are now alleging Chauncey Billups played in some of these card games, right? But the combination of that with all of this newfangled technology, whether it's the fact that they money laundered through crypto investments or the fact that they had the X-ray table, the card counting machine, the barcodes on their cards, the combination of the two is what distinguishes this from David Chase's fantasies 20 plus years ago.
Jason, I'm going to get to you in a second on sort of the fallout for the NBA with this, but let me just ask you, the fact that there are crime families, mob families involved in this, it's not surprising given the topic, given gambling, of course, but how does it complicate the processing or the kind of case that prosecutors will bring?
Well, obviously, cooperation is more difficult when you're talking about people who belong to organized crime. They are notoriously difficult to investigate and prosecute, given the consequences for people who are members of organized crime families. And so I will be really interested in the days to come to learn whether there are confidential informants, whether they come from the victim side, meaning the people who are unsuspecting marks in these games, whether they come from the actual sports enterprises themselves. They mentioned the sports betting books that may have been one of the victims here, right? The market for gambling and legal gambling at that may have also been victimized. But then, of course, they may have had someone on the inside come forward, and the danger to that person in doing so, that person's whereabouts, those people's whereabouts, if there are multiples of them, we have not yet seen the indictments. I know that during the press conference, the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office was referring to their unsealing. As we sit here, one of the reasons I have my computer in front of me is I keep trying to refresh those electronic dockets. They have not been formally unsealed for those of us who are not yet sitting in the room. When we see them, it may be clearer to us whether or not there are confidential informants who participated in this investigation, Alex.
So, Jason, give me a sense of just the fallout, the effect on the NBA for this first indictment. How extensive you think it is? You heard Kash Patel, the FBI director, saying this was going to be unpopular. They were going to take some heat for it because NBA players are popular. Sports betting is hugely popular. But don't people want it to be done cleanly? They want to make their money and not feel like they're getting ripped off.
Yeah, Alex, and this is catastrophic for the NBA. The morning after Victor Wembanyama goes out there and their biggest and brightest young star scores 40 points in his season opener, you have this story. And Adam Silver and the folks at the NBA office have to be cringing. But look, the NBA and all of these sports leagues were so willing to jump into bed with all of these sports betting companies. And everybody had to know. We were all screaming from the top of the mountain going, there are going to be consequences from this. And we all could see it coming. We were all staring down the tunnel at the train coming at us. And nobody seemed to really acknowledge that these were the risks associated with legalizing sports betting, and not just legalizing it, but the leagues jumping into bed with it. So now you have a situation where you've got these players and this coach caught up in it. Who knows how many other players know about it? I mean, and look, like anything else, 2 to 4% of the population in the United States suffers from a gambling addiction. Do you think that doesn't extend to NBA players just because these folks play in the NBA? Of course it does. Look, the only way I think that one of the ways you have to mitigate this, and this will never happen, but with these player prop bets, this ability for sports betting companies to put bets out there that are geared towards what individual players do is always going to open the door for the possibility of a player doing what Terry Rozier did and saying, oops, I got a sore foot, and a bunch of money being bet. The one good thing on this, though, Alex, is the fact that the sports betting companies are doing everything they can from a mitigation standpoint in having eyes on betting trends and odds fluctuating and lots of money going in on one particular bet, and then watching what happens in that case if a player does sit out or decide to pull himself from a game. This is something that sports betting companies have a keen eye on. And it's something that's going to continue to be a problem, Alex.
But, Jason, when they're focusing on that, when they find this kind of trend, it's too late, right, for those people who've already been swindled. And they do not have these X-ray machines that Mark and I were discussing earlier. It is extraordinary what kind of technology was used here.
I could take this from another perspective because I've played poker, and I've played a lot of poker. And I've played, and listen, in my younger days living in New York, I played in underground poker games. So I'm very familiar with sort of the environment that a lot of this took place in. Not something I'm particularly proud of, but something I am a little bit knowledgeable on. If this doesn't kill the underground poker scene, I don't know what will. If this doesn't convince you that you should be playing poker at like a legitimate outlet as opposed to places where things like this could go on, I don't know what will. But I mean, this is a nightmare for the NBA this morning, Alex.
Yeah. Mark, want to jump in on this?
But I think, to your point, though, I think what made it legitimate, allegedly, was you had big
These
name stars
players.
sitting next to you at the table,
Yes.
right? So I'm not just playing poker in sort of this random back alley spot. I'm playing poker with well-known people, very famous people. And that sort of brought a level of legitimacy to those poker games, which is what the Fed said. And then, you know, Alex, as a basketball fan, a huge basketball fan, I think the beauty of the sport is fairness of the sport. And when you hear the sort of the insider trading, that insider info on prop bets, and hey, listen, tonight, put money on this one because they're going to have an injury. They're not going to hit that rebound mark. It's devastating to a fan. It's heartbreaking. It really is. It's very frustrating.
And also, Alex, can I add something?
Sure.
Devastating to the NBA in recent years has sort of elided some of the controversies that have beset some of the other peer professional sports leagues. If you think about, for example, the impact of CTI and domestic violence on the NFL in recent years, or if you think about some of the rules changes of Major League Baseball and how that has impacted fans and attendance at games, the NBA, on the other hand, is really having a marquee era under Adam Silver's leadership. This has to be devastating this morning for the NBA, which has, by all accounts, been led incredibly well in its recent years.
that were also participating in this operation today. The FBI office here in New York remains committed to eradicating all unlawful revenue streams fueling this criminal activity. As with most cases we work, this is only the tip of the iceberg for the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office. Our LCN squad agents and analysts are continuing to work day and night with the Eastern District of New York to ensure members and associates of the 5 families cannot continue to wreak havoc in our communities. Today would not have been possible without the tireless efforts and dedication of the FBI New York Eurasian Organized Crime Task Force, which, as you heard, was led by Supervisory Special Agent Luke Hardison, and the Italian Organized Task Force, which was led by Supervisory Special Agent Mike Malahi. And coincidentally, Supervisory Special Agent Malahi is going out on a positive as he is retiring at the end of this month for 30 years of dedicated service to the FBI, and that deserves a hand. He's what we call a legend here at FBI New York. Additionally, obviously, we cannot do this alone without our partners. I want to extend my appreciation to Homeland Security Investigations Special Agent in Charge, Ricky Patel. Of course, we do nothing in this city without the NYPD. New York City Police Department Commissioner Jesse Tisch, thank you, ma'am, for all your work and all your resources that you dedicated to this. And New York Waterfront Commissioner Phoebe Soriel for their agency's assistance and support throughout this lengthy.
Another was ex-NBA player. Considering the worlds that I live in this particular day and time in my life, still suffering from my double root canal, so my face still looking like a chipmunk, and I'm sorry if I sound a little bit or curtailed to some degree, but I appreciate y'all bearing with me. The news that came down earlier this morning, the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, arrested 31 people, including 2 NBA figures and members of 4 mafia families in a bombshell gambling bust this morning. One of those people arrested was Portland Trail Blazers coach Chauncey Billups. Another was ex-NBA player Damon Jones. They were among those taken down in the bust. According to the director of the FBI himself, the conspiracy spanned years, netted tens of millions of dollars in illegal profits, and involved the 4 major New York crime families, including the Bonanos, Genovese, Luchese, and Gambino, La Casa, Nostra mob families, officials claimed. This is from an article in the New York Post. The indictment is here right in front of me. 3 of the NBA guys was Chauncey Billups, former NBA player and assistant coach Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier, a member of the Miami Heat, who was on the bench last night when they were playing in Miami. Now, before I get into this deeper and any further, I have to say to you that, I know all 3 guys, Damon Jones and Chauncey Billups, a little bit more than I know Terry Rozier, but I'm fond of all 3 of them. I could not believe this. This was incredibly shocking, to say the least. And this is serious business. And to put things in its proper context, you do not see something like this happen. Even when the scandal came down the pike involving Tim Donaghy, the former referee, former official for the NBA, who was involved in his gambling scandal, you didn't see the director of the FBI having a press conference about it. But that's what we saw this morning. And to me, essentially, ladies and gentlemen, it comes down to this. Trump is coming. He's coming. It's not hyperbolic. It's not hyperbole. I'm dead serious. And I've been saying this for quite some time, and I know people saw me on First Take on ESPN this morning, and some may have been uncomfortable with what I'm saying, but I will remind you, the worlds that I live in, it's not just doing First Take on ESPN every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. It's not just doing this show on Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio from 1 to 3 each weekday, which I just started in September. I also have my own political show. And you also see me making appearances all over the place. And you see that is a world that I now, to some degree anyway, am entrenched in. I'm not guessing. I'm telling you. I'm telling you what's being said. He's coming. He's coming. He's coming for the National Football League. Why you think this whole Bad Bunny thing and the Super Bowl halftime show is an issue? The NBA, and conveniently, this comes down the pike after opening night for the NBA season on ESPN, when it had opened a day earlier on NBC. And he's not going to stop. And I'll get into the whys and all of that in just a second. But before you hear anything further from me, let's hear from the director of the FBI, Mr. Kash Patel himself, speaking on this issue and these indictments. Listen up.
As you now know, individuals such as Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier were taken into custody today, former, current NBA players and coaches. What you don't know is that this is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years. The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing. Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against La Casa Nostra to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families. And you'll hear more about those details today. The charges and the arrests that were taken down across this country range from wire fraud, money laundering, extortion, robbery, illegal gambling. This FBI will leave no room for any perpetrator of crime across this country. You hear a lot about our work of defending the homeland and crushing violent crime. Well, this work is also representative of a colossal portion of the FBI's mandate to keep America safe and to keep our entertainment industry fair and secure. The men and women that are standing up here today worked tireless hours, days, months, and years. And the fraud is mind-boggling. It's not hundreds of dollars. It's not thousands of dollars. It's not tens of thousands of dollars. It's not even millions of dollars. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery across a multi-year investigation.
You believe me now? They're not playing. This is serious business. And two parts here. The veracity and the substance of the case itself, that has to be determined, and that has to bear out. And we have to keep our eyes and ears to the grind about that to decipher, how significant this is. But there's no question that it's serious. This is millions upon millions of dollars that we're talking about at stake here. And if you're talking about an illegal gambling operation that was taking place, whether it be poker games or anything else, don't just look at the players. Look at who they're connected to. And if you're looking at this particular instance, you're talking about the NBA today. Could you imagine right now, you're talking about the National Basketball Association. What kind of effect does this have on evaluation of sports franchises and how this could be perceived? This could end up being a big time moment for Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA. Similar to a David Stern moment when the Tim Donaghy situation took place. And right now, here's a statement from the NBA. We are in the process of reviewing the federal indictments announced today. Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups are being placed on immediate leave from their teams, and we will continue to cooperate with the relevant authorities. We take these allegations with the utmost seriousness, and the integrity of our game remains our top priority. As a person who loves the NBA, who loves Adam Silver, who had love for David Stern, God rest his soul, who knows an abundance of people associated with the NBA, I know that there's no way, in my heart of hearts, I firmly believe, rather, there's no way they would be remotely associated with such a thing. They take these things very seriously. But when it comes to Trump, this is not about that. This is about the integrity of the league. This is about impugning their integrity. This is about making things a bit messy and inconvenient. And whoever has to suffer, so be it. And why? Because people came after him. I've said before, vengeance, retribution. The man ain't playing. And this is not me casting aspersions, making judgment, or doing anything on anybody's side. I'm just telling you what I know. The man ain't playing. The National Football League decides to elect Bad Bunny as its halftime entertainment. And shortly thereafter, we saw the Department of Homeland Security saying they have every intention of attending the Super Bowl, of being at the Super Bowl, outside the Super Bowl in Santa Clara, where they will be waiting for people trying to come to the Super Bowl, looking to engage in detainment and ultimately mass deportation. You got rumors in the hip-hop industry and the music industry where Bad Bunny is telling his folks, because he's from Puerto Rico, don't bother coming with me, because he don't want to cause them any problems. Trump knows this, don't care. You got the NBA now with this on immediately following opening night. It's not like some superstar was named in all of this, y'all. This is Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier. But it didn't stop them from having a press conference at 10 a.m. to make sure that ABC had it, and First Take had it, and the sports world had it, to let you know what's coming down the pike, because he's coming. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something right now. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the WNBA is next. Protest, verbiage, we ain't judging. Let me be very, very clear. We're not saying that folks don't have a right to protest. We're not saying that everybody needs to be agreeable with him. We're not saying that you got to co-sign everything he wants to do ideologically and beyond. That's not what we're saying. What I'm saying to you is that being entrenched in this political stratosphere that we're living in now, it's not the policy stuff. It's when folks call him a felon. It's when folks wanted to put him in jail. It's what he perceives as an absolute abuse of power for him playing a game and mastering a game that the political apparatus had been playing for decades. But you tried to lock him up for the rest of his life. I'm telling you what has been told to me personally by people who have spoken to him. He's coming. He's not playing. Folks thought it was going to stop at John Bolton, his former national security advisor, or Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, or Jack Smith, one of the prosecutors that went after him, or somebody like that, or James Comey, the former FBI director. That's politics. He's not stopping there. He's not stopping. He's coming. And oh, by the way, it's going to be worse this year. Why? Because he understands that there's a possibility he might lose the midterms. And that the power that he can wield now, having the support of those in the House and the Senate on Capitol Hill, might not be something he enjoys after the 2026 midterm elections. This is a sports show. We're talking sports. I'm talking about the NFL. I'm talking about the NBA. I'm talking about the WNBA. He's coming. He's coming. Whole kneeling with the protests. Whole locking of arms. In his eyes, folks abused power and cost him the election in 2020. One that he swears was rigged. And he's on the loose. This is what's going on right now. This is why I sit up there and I say, against the wishes of so many people, like, listen, when somebody does something right, be fair. Just mention it. If something went right with Israel and Hamas and he did something right, give him credit for it. If you ain't totally against closing the borders, say so. Say something. Because most of the stuff we're going to say, we're not going to be kind about it, because a lot of people, tens of millions of people in this country, don't like what we're seeing, and we shouldn't like what we're seeing. But at least it's along the lines of politics and life, as opposed to him walking around acting like somehow, some way, there was an abuse of power that was exercised just to target him. And now it's his turn, because that's what he's saying to people. Don't kill a messenger. Don't kill a messenger. I'm just giving you the message. I'm telling you what I know. Meaning what has been told to me. Not by him, because I don't talk to him. And I don't agree with him, and I didn't vote for him. But you must understand, this is the climate. He ain't messing around. Bad Bunny gonna show up to the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is the greatest event in sports in America. We all know it. And this man is planning on detaining people trying to go to the Super Bowl. And has told you so. I was very proud of Commissioner Roger Goodell coming out saying we ain't changing our plans. If anybody has the prowess to fight him off, it's the National Football League. But remember I told you he wanted to own the Buffalo Bills in 2014. Remember I told you that he was on the phone and he said, quote, if them MFers, meaning those NFL owners, get in my way, and prevent me from buying the Buffalo Bills, I'm going to get them all back. I'm going to run for president. And then did it. Remember when he said, fire all those sons of you know what? So offensive to the NFL, even Jerry Jones took a knee. Remember all the protests and all the things that were being said and how you had to get him out of office. Bring up the WNBA. Why? Magnificent, marvelous, athletic women doing their things, very articulate, very intelligent, very outspoken. He's not stopping. Because in his eyes, he's only got a year. Because if the GOP doesn't win, then who knows? I don't know if we have ever in our lifetime been in the midst of a sports environment like the one we are going to be forced to embrace over the next year. Because he has no intentions of stopping. All I'm telling you is what I've been told. Don't kill a messenger. I talk to everybody because I want to hear the information. And when this came down the pike, that's what I was told. He's coming. It was an abuse of power in his eyes, Stephen. And he's remembering everybody. I find it disgusting. I find it heinous. I find it inexcusable and beneath the office of the presidency and our politics and everything in between. And I'm fully aware that this was being negotiated, or I'm not negotiated, but investigated over the last couple of years. I got that. But it happening now and the manner in which it's going down to the point where the FBI director is in attendance, that's pomp and circumstance, ladies and gentlemen. That's flexing. That's sending a message that this is just the tip of the iceberg. That's telling you they got more coming down the pike and that they have no intention of stopping. That is what's going on. And folks got to buckle up. Now, some people are going to sit up there and say he doesn't care about the NBA. He cares about dealing with people who he thought were supposed to support him and didn't. He cares about control. He cares about disseminating his message and making sure that he has the requisite support necessary to do the things that he wants to do. And the people willing to get in his way are people he's willing to inconvenience. I can tell you that much. That's what's going on. Know that. Know that. 888 Mad Dog 6 is the number to call up. That's 888-623-3646. Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio. You know, in the end, Trump's going to have bigger fish to fry. Make no mistake about it. And a guy like Cash Patel likes being in front of that camera and wants to make a name for himself and wants to be seen as somebody formidable and what have you. My only point is that he answers to Trump. And Trump ain't going to stop it. And that's primarily what I'm saying when I tell you he's coming. The kind of things that people might have the attitude that, you know, they didn't have to worry about in the past, you got to worry about it now. But you got people that sit up there and say, oh, no, the NBA, that's not on Trump's radar. He doesn't care about the NBA. Notice they ain't saying that about the NFL. You never know. 888 Mad Dog 6 is the number to call up. That's 888-623-3646. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Andrew in Florida. You're live with Stephen A. What's going on, Andrew? How you doing?
Stephen A., great to talk to you. I respect the hell out of you. Love you. Love your opinions on both sides of sports and politics. And I'll preface by.
All right, we've got some breaking news for you. Miami Heat point guard Terry Rozier and.
First off, what are the facts as we know them?
Okay, so two different investigations. One that involved the Trailblazers head coach, Chauncey Billups, was about illegal poker and organized crime. Basically, they'd set up these poker parties in Manhattan. They were using modified card shuffling machines and
they were cheating.
And cameras in the desks and things like that. They were bilking unsuspecting gamblers out of millions and millions of dollars. And they say that the head coach, as well as Rozier, Terry Rozier, and Damon Jones, who is a former Cavs player, were there to lend an air of legitimacy to these poker games and lure them in. Who doesn't want to sit next to the head coach for the Trailblazers?
Do we know, and all these are, I want to be very clear, all these are allegations. Everybody here may be found innocent. That's a critical part of the story. Do we know at all if Billups was aware of his role in sort of bringing in marks, if you will?
Prosecutors say that he was in on it, that he was part of the scheme to lure people in and to lend this an air of legitimacy. He will be in federal court in Oregon this afternoon. The second investigation is about throwing basically NBA games and then profiting on inside information. They point specifically to Terry Rozier when he was with the Hornets in 2023 in March, playing a game, telling people he was going to have an injury, and they go out and they bet about $200,000 on the unders for Rozier. They profit tens of thousands of dollars on those player props. They go back to he played 9 minutes of the game. They go to Rozier's house. They split up the proceeds. And bada bing, bada boom.
So for a lot of our viewers and listeners that are not sort of sports gamers, what Contessa's talking about, and if I'm wrong, tell me, Alex, jump in. You can bet on individual player stats. This player is going to score either under 14.5 points or more than. You don't just bet on sports outcomes. You can bet on player outcomes. And so if a player is betting on him or herself and then takes him or herself out of a game before they reach said point, they're effectively, as I think prosecutors, Alex, called this, insider trading the NBA.
They call it the insider trading saga for the NBA. With Cash Patel's.
And look, the leagues and the betting companies themselves for years have defended legalized sports gaming, broadly speaking, primarily by saying it facilitates the openness of regulators being able to identify potential scandals in a way that didn't exist when this was all black market. So if you look at it from that lens, you can say, okay, well, the betting platforms were able to provide information of unusual betting patterns around these particular prop bets. Because what happened here was there was a surge of betting on the under for Terry Rozier in that particular game, and then Terry Rozier pulled himself out of the game early, and so the under paid off. And so people were able to connect the dots here and say, wait a second, this is unusual.
They connected the dots because the legal sports books and the integrity monitoring technology, they all work together to alert authorities. This is part of the same conspiracy that got Jonte Porter when he was in Toronto for betting on it.
Because the FanDuels and the DraftKings and all the other ones in the world, they're already putting out statements like the integrity of the game. They're going to do one of these back off because and I'm going to use a CNBC analogy. Again, if I'm wrong, jump in. This would be the equivalent of a Robinhood or a Schwab or a TD Ameritrade saying, yo, people are going to do bad things in the stock market, but and we're going to help find them. We're not enabling them. We're going to actually help fix them.
To be clear, the legal gambling industry has their biggest competitor is the illegal gambling industry. They put the sports betting offshore unlicensed gambling at more than $600 million. And so they have a vested interest in trying to get everybody to come on the platform. So why you're using, if you're a professional athlete and you're using a legal platform to gamble on yourself, it raises more questions.
Well, we're not talking astrophysics here. Go ahead.
Yeah, look, I mean, the counter argument to this is that the proliferation of legalized sports betting potentially elevates the likelihood of something like this happens. That would be the argument to say something needs to be changed here. And maybe what needs to be changed is things like prop betting on individualized players.
Does it go? Okay, I tweeted out. Does it go away? Should prop betting on players go away, or is it not?
That's what they're worried about. Why? Because the player props are what go into the parlays. The parlays are the most profitable product that the sports books have.
So they'll never go away. Too much money.
But the regulators are in charge of that, and it goes state by state. There are some states that are very fierce on regulation. They don't let you bet on college sports if that college is in your state. So
but there's a lot of let's back it up for a second, because a lot of our viewers may not be in states where they can legally gamble. So we're using terms that people maybe know, but they don't. Whatever. So let's just make it a totally legitimate situation, right? I'm a professional athlete, insert joke here, but I'm a professional athlete and I have a cold. I don't feel good. And I tell some of my buddies, I'm really sick. I don't have any ill intent whatsoever. I'm just telling my friends I don't feel good. They go out and put a bunch of bets on me against me as a player the next day. I have no idea they're doing that. They just happen to know that I innocently said I had a cold. This is the kind of stuff we're going to have, the industry, Alex, is going to have to deal with.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's the argument. The NCAA commissioner, Charlie Baker, wants to eliminate prop betting. He's said it publicly. So,
and again, the sports books, some of them do not offer player props in college sports for this very reason. They think that college.
Not yet.
They think, no.
College sports is now pro sports, Contessa. You know that. It's not it's money. It's the same thing as pro.
Okay.
Well, but look, college athletes were just allowed to start betting on professional sports. That just happened.
Yes.
That announcement. So,
and they're getting paid millions of dollars
and I just
now.
In today's CNBC Sport newsletter, I wrote about how the media companies themselves almost have to get into bed with the betting companies, or at least have a closer relationship with them from a partnership standpoint, because they're trying to develop alternative revenue streams to pay for the ever-increasing cost of the media rights to carry NBA basketball or NFL football. And these partnerships allow them a new revenue stream to tack onto the advertising and the subscription revenue they had. So we've seen that come together.
Yeah.
Okay. In the indictment itself, switching a little bit of gears here, this is really random but interesting, I suppose. They list the number of unknown, player 1, player 2, player 3. It looks like from your reporting, Alex, that player 3, and I want to be very clear, nobody's implying or implicating these players in anything except they're mentioned as playing in games where this allegedly may have occurred. They're not involved in this other
states that were also participating in this operation today. The FBI office here in New York remains committed to eradicating all.
Here with me.
First off, what are the facts as we know them?
Okay, so two different investigations. One that involved the Trailblazers head coach, Chauncey Billups, was about illegal poker and organized crime. Basically, they'd set up these poker parties in Manhattan. They were using modified card shuffling machines and
they were cheating. First off, what are the facts?
All right, we've got some breaking news for you. Miami Heat point guard Terry Rozier and Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey.
The sprawling FBI probe into mafia-linked gambling and sports rigging schemes is sending shockwaves across the NBA and across the United States. You're looking right now at the high-tech cheating technology that federal officials allege was used to rig poker games, an X-ray poker table to see through face-down cards, a manipulated shuffling machine to predict who gets the best hand, used, officials say, to steal millions from victims. Joining us now is casino game protection and cheating expert Sal Piasanti. Sal, an X-ray table, card reading chip trays, rigged shuffling machines. I didn't know this stuff existed. I guess I'm not surprised, but I didn't know it existed. Can you explain how any of this equipment is used?
Oh, I can explain all of it. The X-ray table, that's just a table that has cameras built into it that look upward at the cards. It can actually see through the green felt, so you can use any of cards. As long as the cards lie above the camera can see what that card is and then transmit it. The shuffle machines, we just did a special on YouTube, and where a shuffle machine was hacked. What happens is the Deckmate 2 has a camera in it. And what that camera does, it notifies the casino or the dealer or the house if a card is missing. Also, if you took a deck of cards and put it into that machine, the cameras know every card and can actually sort that deck out and put it back in order for you for the next day or the next play. Well, the cheaters came up with ways of utilizing that camera as well to know what cards are being dealt and who's getting them. And that shuffle machine is altered to transmit to an earpiece to tell the people who are going to win. Also, there are machines that were also designed to do a false shuffle, where when the cheaters put the deck into the machine, it sounds like the cards are being shuffled, but they're not. And then as far as the analyzer, the tray, this has been around for a long time. It's not new by no means. If you want to see a quick example of it, it could be built into the tray or it's built into a cell phone. And basically what happens is this. You could take this deck of cards. Well, first of all, this is a regular phone. It looks like a regular phone. Put your SIM card in it, and it acts like a regular phone. But when I put in a code, now it becomes a cheating phone. So let's go to Texas Hold'em. How many players? Let's say you can name any amount. We'll say 3 to keep it easy. 3 players. And I'm going to put this on loud so you can hear it. So I'm going to put it on speaker.
Okay.
And now it's ready to go.
Yeah.
So when this deck of cards right now is shuffled, it could be in a shuffle machine. It doesn't make a difference. When the dealer takes them out and cuts them, listen to the phone. 3-2. That means right now, seat 3 is going to win. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Ace 5 is winning. Here's your burn. There's your flop. 2 pair. Burn, flop, burn, and seat 3 wins. This phone will tell you who's going to win. You heard it out loud, but this phone would also transmit to an earpiece.
Yeah.
This system could
can I just
also
ask
be
you
designed, built.
Yeah.
Anything.
But the earpiece thing, is that also relevant for the camera under the table that can read through the felt? Because the dealer is not under the table. He's not seeing it. So somebody else is seeing these images and speaking to the dealer or whomever in their earpiece. Is that right?
Correct. That's right. That information is transmitted elsewhere, and that person receiving the information sends it back. And the earpiece, believe me, is very tiny. This is one of the earpieces that I demonstrate. I don't know if you can see that.
You got to move the camera. Hold it up a little bit. Oh my God.
That's it.
That's pretty teeny.
So right
that's
before
like a 1
they go
milligram
onto the
pill.
game. Oh, totally. And it goes right into the ear. So now, right now, that earpiece is right next to my eardrum. If you were talking to me, or sitting right next to me, you could look in. You can't see it. When my partner's talking to me, I hear it so loud. And there's only one way to get that out right now. Magnet.
Yeah, I was going to say. Oh my God, yeah, because otherwise it's going to go in forever and cause you depth perception problems. Sal Piasanti, I could do 6 hours with you on this. This is fascinating. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your expertise.
Joining me now, James Whelan, Executive Director of the Tennessee Institute for Gambling Education and Research, also Editor-in-Chief of the Journal of Gambling Studies. Good to have you here. First, let's talk about this case. 11 states, active NBA coach, NBA player, working on inside information, including, information on LeBron James's injuries, right? It's quite remarkable. Unprecedented in terms of the extent of this?
Oh, not at all. This has existed for over 100 years. When we think about the famous Black Sox story, the 1960s, the NIT, but very recently we've heard a number of stories where there are players, coaches, those involved with pro leagues and college leagues who've broken the rules.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm thinking of the baseball players, right? I mean, you had active pitchers, right, on the Cleveland Indians who were taking part in this kind of thing. It just strikes me, been watching this for some time, given all the money involved in sports gambling today and how widely it's promoted. I watch a lot of sports. I mean, gambling is like plugged into the coverage of it, right? Should we be surprised that you see this kind of illegal activity?
I would say not. I think that the cultural evolution around sports betting and how now gambling is part of every conversation. It used to be that people talked about sports, the numbers, the percentages, the hitting, the points, but now they talk about the lines, the over-under. But it's just not people generally. It's actually the commentators. It's the networks. Yep. It's social media that you can't separate out. It's the gamification of sports that they're now one and the same thing. So it's not surprising.
I mean, I'm wondering why pro sports, the government aren't seeing the risk and enacting restrictions, because obviously it affects the integrity of the game, right? I mean, that's the concern here. And yet the NCAA just approved a rule change that allows athletes and athletic staff to bet on professional sports. I mean, what are they thinking?